limited features. Zoom or any other video meeting device like Google Chat, and then, well, Figma.
And yeah, to just on that too, I feel like the Calendly is like so important. Like I think like really when you're trying to get those first couple users, and sometimes you might end up getting those users again, like for future ones. Like the ease of use of scheduling the meeting is so big. You can I think we started off without Calendly, and we basically just sent emails and said like, when are you free? And sometimes those chains can take forever with busy schedules. So I think it adds a little bit of professionality to it, and like even with the free account, it goes a long way of just like quickly scheduling the meetings.
Yeah, for sure. You don't have like this back and forth of like, oh, when can you do this? Or wait, no, we can't do this. You just send them your available slots and they book them right away. Okay. So second part are the emails themselves. So first, to recruit the potential participants, it really helps if you work with product or with customer support and just ask like who you can reach out to, especially when you first just start this process, because you don't want to call like random customers. It's nice if there is already some kind of like closer relationship with the company. And the first email is to recruit the participants. So here you can have like some subject lines that you can use to draw their attention. And this is the email itself, pretty straightforward. Just want to say hi, introduce yourself. Try to keep it relatively short, give them an overview of like what the features you are working on, and then include the Calendly link, obviously. And so this part is relatively important. So when you email the potential participants, you want to make sure that only one person from the company signs up for a particular time slot, because what we have happened to us pretty frequently is that we would have one person from the company sign up and then another 5 would show up, and that's not really a usability session, because the person who is supposed to walk through the prototype, he is getting all of the other colleagues pretty much watching him, and it's definitely not the same experience for them or for us. And then there is also like a lot of derailing of the conversation. So yeah, they're welcome to book another time slot, but you don't want to have a lot of people in your usability session.
Yeah, and even that will even like give you a possibility of getting more users, right? Because if they end up bringing 5 in and you have that last little paragraph there, maybe 2 people end up signing up, or someone forwards that email to someone else and they sign up. So again, nothing groundbreaking here, just like these little subtle additions to the emails that we like modified over the time to just kind of also just like kind of set up the users. We don't want to explain the usability sessions too much. That will kind of come in like during the session, but like they need to know enough, like if they have no idea what a usability session is. So like kind of give that brief background without going too much into detail. And then Masha, I think just because like a lot of people are probably looking at the comments section too and like our faces and stuff, maybe just slide the left bar over a little bit and zoom in just a tiny bit more. It's probably, I have a tiny screen to begin with, so I'm sure most people are good, but just so they could.
Oh, here it is. I was trying to do it before, and like I always get confused between this and this. Okay, perfect. Is it better now?
Yeah, it's better.
Okay. So yeah, another important thing about this first recruiting email is it might be best to just send out each emails individually. I guess it depends on how many people you're sending out to. I know like even 20 people can get kind of tedious, but this will really help to ensure that your emails don't go into spam folders, because I've even tried before using like the Gmail mass sending email, where you just send one email to multiple people at the same time. And most of those emails, I think, ended up in spam folders, and we had like a hard time recruiting people. And then, yeah, I think my email address even got blocked from some people, which never happened when I sent out emails individually. So another like small little thing. Okay. So after you recruit your participants, and I guess important to talk a little bit about the numbers. So usually, if I would send emails to 20 people, we would get maybe five or six participants, and I think that's a pretty good result, unless we send really bad emails. I don't know, but yeah, if you get that number of people, then I think that's a pretty good outcome. Mm-hmm. Okay. So after you recruit your participants, you want to send a confirmation the day of the usability session, and the subject line can be just relatively simple, something like this. And then, so yeah, you do, again, a little introduction, and then you want to send them a link to the prototype. So most of your customers have probably never opened up Figma in their entire lives. So sending them a prototype link is necessary at first, so that they can load it on their computer, because sometimes Figma prototypes take a while to load, and you don't want to waste 5 minutes during your session. And second, if for some reason they can't open up a link because they have some because their company like blocks certain links, or just for privacy issues, then you kind of want to know it right before the session, so that then you can make some adjustments about which we will talk about later. Mm-hmm. And for the scale down parameter, it's I'll just show it. So it's pretty much so that you're able to view the whole screen, because sometimes when you just load the Figma prototype, it kind of displays at full size. And again, we'll go into this a little bit later. But when you send the link, you just want to ensure that this little scale down parameter is here.
Right. Yeah. So the two big things for this like reminder email is really, yes, to just remind people again, so that they don't forget they have busy days. And then the second thing, it's nice, again, like not everyone, like we've even sent this out and not everyone opens up the link, but it is nice for people to have the link open. Sometimes the prototypes take a long time to load. And like, we also don't really want people to like, it's fine if they know it's Figma, but they want to just make it look like it's just like a PowerPoint presentation or whatever. So that scale down is perfect. It's ready to go. And you can just really have people like immediately kind of start the walkthrough.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And now the usability session itself. So for this one, we have kind of a script that you can refer to and keep on the side kind of for yourself. And then you'll have the slides, which will be at the beginning of your prototype. And we will do a small walkthrough after we go over like this, the script part at the top. Mm-hmm. Okay, so first introduction, you do typical American hello, how are you? Then you introduce yourself once again. If you have anyone else on the line from your team, introduce them as well, or give them a chance to introduce themselves. Then once we start, make sure they open up a link, and you are going to ask them to share the screen. So once again, in Figma, you have this option of when you're in the prototype mode, if there are other people in the prototype mode, you can click on their like little bubble here at the top, and you're able to see their interactions. However, there might be some bugs with that view, especially if you have overlays on the page. Like sometimes I've noticed that when I'm observing somebody, I can't, if they open up an overlay, I don't see it. So we found that the most bulletproof way to be able to see completely everything that the participant is doing, to have them share their screen. But again, you may want to just do the Figma observer mode.
Right, and that beginning part is like kind of like, again, you'll see this is half like checklist just to make sure you don't forget things. Obviously, you want to make sure that they open up the link and you don't just kind of go right into it. And then other things too, like again, these are just handy tips, like just to make the user feel welcome. It's good to basically let everyone know who else is on the call, as opposed to just like, oh, I feel like there's like 8 people watching me. It's nice to put a face to the name, and at least just introduce everyone. So I think that's important too.
Yeah, and also one thing about like this scripts themselves, obviously you don't need to read them word by word. It's more something for you to refer to, and obviously like put your character, put your personality into it. So yeah, this is not like a set in stone, like this is how you should do it. Okay, so the first slide is going to be the welcome slide. So it would look something like this. Again, you can make it look any way you want. Just nice to have.
You can make it look a lot nicer than that. That's my thing there. So make it look nicer than that. But that was my best effort. So
yeah, so it when they open up, like first, we found that you don't want them to see the screen right away, especially because most of the time participants will start like clicking on things. Yeah, ask them if they've done a usability session before. Ideally, especially if your company is small, you should rather say something, oh, I remember you've done a usability session with us before, or I know you haven't. So this is something you should track and like keep information of. But if you want to ask that, you can. And then, yeah, depending on whether they have or haven't, you can either go into more details or in less details. And then, yeah, once again, make sure they're able to view the entire screen properly. And then we proceed to slide 2, which is the question slide. So for the questions, it's more to learn about them a little bit more, like ask them what they usually do in your software, if they have like any thoughts about the upcoming feature that you're testing. And so at this point, the conversation can derail, and the customer can take it away into completely opposite direction, into maybe their pain points with the application or just something else that they want to talk about. So it's very important to be able, like very gently, to bring them back to what the usability session is about. And it's pretty simple, right? Like,
yeah, I would say just like obviously be ready with questions. Try to be as specific as possible. You're trying to get the person to feel a little bit more comfortable, but like Masha says, without like derailing the object of the call. So you're trying to get to learn a little bit about them feel comfortable, and make sure the questions are specific to kind of what, like more information about how much they know about whatever you're going to prototype.
Third slide, you may or may not want to include it. So most of our customer base, they're maybe like 45 plus, 50 plus. They really don't know what a prototype is, and they really don't care. So for them, it's important to explain what this actually is all about, because obviously not everyone knows. And again, depending on participant, you may want to go into more or into less depth about this. Yeah, you can just explain that it's like a simulation of the website, and can click, tap through pictures. So yeah, just as simple explanation as possible.
Yeah, and I would love to hear if people want to even Slack after or even put in the comments. Like this one, Mosh and I always go back and forth. I would love to hear other people's way of describing a prototype in like a 1 or 2 word way that's like that you can tell like your mom or dad. Like so this was kind of our way of doing it. I would love to hear what other people would have done to explain it to other people. So
Slide 4, expectations. So many people, when they hear something like usability testing session, they think that they'll be tested on their knowledge of the software. And it's very, very important to make it clear that you are not testing them, that you are testing your design or your ideas, and that they shouldn't be afraid to say something like, "Oh, I don't know where to go from here," or they shouldn't be afraid to admit that they're lost, because the expectation should be is that they get lost, then this is something about the design that should be changed, not something about their abilities to navigate. So again, depending on the participant, especially if they have never done this before, you may want to really, really stress this point.
and Masha, we're getting a couple more people. Just maybe zoom in a click or two more. We're still getting people that might not be able to see it too great. So
wait, what do you want to do?
Just
zoom in more.
Yeah, just a tiny bit more.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a lot better.
Yeah, and then of course you will have like access to this file even after the session. So okay, and slide 5. In case there are other people at your company that want to see the session after, you may want to record the session and obviously ask for the permission of the client that you are testing it with. And we also found that like having this like back and like start prototype buttons on the intro slide have been very, very useful, because it helps navigate around. Okay. This is pretty much the intro session. Just 5 slides. Really shouldn't take a long time, because obviously you want to reserve most of the chunk for the prototype itself. But these are the essentials that we found to be useful. Okay, so then you have your prototype, and then once you get to the last slide of your prototype, it's also useful to, okay, I'm going to change that right now. End prototype. You have an end prototype button that takes you to your wrap-up slide. And on the last slide, something that you want to include, first, whether or not they have any final questions. Second, you can just let them know that if they want to go to a certain point of a prototype, they can just use their arrow keys to navigate back and forth. Leave your email here so that they can get back to you with questions. And
oh, sorry, go ahead.
And I was just gonna say that definitely feel free to do like a longer pause at this point, no matter how awkward it might feel, because at this point they'll probably be slightly overwhelmed with information, and even if they have any questions, it will take them maybe a minute or two to formulate their thoughts. So definitely don't feel like you need to fill the space with words. Just let them think.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the email at the end is a good outlet. I don't think we really even got too many emails, but it's always good to not like pressure them. It almost says like, oh, well, like don't feel pressure to say it now. can always email us. And sometimes I think that almost just calms them down into thinking of some questions on the spot too. So,
Okay. So yeah, this was an overview, and just to go over it from like the prototype perspective. So here's your intro slide. Here's the question slide. That they can just navigate this, and then our prototype and end prototype, and here's the final slide. Okay, so
and
I'm just
even on the and yeah, just another button there. Even on like I know I was making fun of the design itself, but like I think again, colors that are like completely contrasting from your prototype just make the initial slides look as different from a style perspective as possible, because again, it really is something different. So change the colors, change the font, change the button looks, because you want it to just behave completely different than your obvious prototype that you're going to be testing, just so that they can mentally switch gears and understand that, like, okay, now I'm actually inside the tool, quote unquote.
A couple of other small points, and then we will open up the questions if there are any. So first, unless you're testing like interaction between the slides or between the frames in your prototype, make sure to have some transition. For this one, we can just quickly go over. So when you make your prototype link, I hope you can. So once you have your interaction details, small window here, the default is usually instant. And if you keep it at an instant, the change between frames is usually instant. So sometimes for a customer, it's hard to notice that something has changed, especially if the change is very small. So unless you're specifically testing something, just set it to the zone to like 300 for the number here. Then it will be a little easier. Second point, so this is important to first check your company's privacy policy, but if they're relatively lenient with like design testing and stuff, make sure you have that anyone with the link into the prototype, but otherwise customer will not be able to get in. And I don't know, if people have like a very strict privacy policy, maybe it makes sense to have like a temporary viewer customer account. It just would be a little bit more frequent because they will need to also receive like a password and the username to get in. Third, very important, if possible, have someone else on your team also on the line. So first, it's very useful when you have somebody else to take notes. And second, there might be some technical issues. I once had happened to me where like my Zoom didn't work, and then I happened to have like a construction outside, and just everything that could go wrong did go wrong. So my teammate was able to just take over the session walkthrough for me and pretty much save the day. So yeah, if possible, please have somebody. And fourth, definitely want to recognize Steve Krug. He wrote this book that you might have heard of that's called Don't Make Me Think. He has a lot of good information for bootstrapping usability session, and he has some scripts as well. And we definitely used a lot of his knowledge to put this together. Yeah, Alex, please, if you have anything else to add, go ahead.
Yeah, I think the one last thing, Masha was kind of alluding, again, this is just kind of like we kind of put it together, and especially like kind of the wording in the beginning can definitely be modified. I would say kind of like Masha said, like make it better if you guys think it's better. I would say be consistent with all your users. Like once you do have it written out, like it's not. I think Steve Krug's biggest thing is like once you have it written out, you really should read it word for word. I think that's the best way to be consistent with all your users, so you're getting a consistent experience. And then kind of going off of that, it doesn't look weird reading it from a prompt because you probably shouldn't be sharing your screen. I think like in the beginning, it's fine to share your screen to kind of say hello and show your face and maybe even show the other people that are kind of going to be behind the scenes to show their face. But once we start the prototypes, it's good for everyone to remove like their video, because that the last thing you want is to be seeing like a whole bunch of people moving around or moving their heads or like moving their head in to see what you're doing. It just like really would bother people and make them double think about what they're doing. So want to give them as little of distractions as possible. We didn't have any questions, Masha, but I did learn, and I didn't want to cut you off too many times. Command plus would like remove like the bars off to the right and left if we wanted to zoom in even better on the canvas. So that's definitely a one I want to use in the future. But yeah, I think the biggest thing, thanks Joshua for saying like the little tips. I think that's really what it is. It's like this isn't rocket science. This is just like a lot of little things that hopefully if you guys haven't started this, it will just kind of jumpstart your process a little bit more, and you won't have to, again, like Masha tried that email tool and didn't work out. Like, if it saves people time and gives them a couple of helpful tips, that's all we're trying to kind of accomplish.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. Let's open it up. Once again, does anyone have any questions about anything? Okay. So while you guys are thinking about questions,
you should do your silence you were talking about. You should do the awkward silence that you were talking about in the demo. Do you want those questions?
Oh, that's right. Okay, I'll actually fill my awkward silence with words. I'll go against my. Oh wait, how to choose the right question when doing usability test. Okay, I guess that's a good one. So we try to have as little questions as possible to the participants during the usability session itself. So usually we give them a series of predefined tasks. For example, you want to create an account, and then we just let them think and like voice their thought process out loud of how they would navigate it. So we try not to have any question as such as why don't you look at that side of the screen, or I guess a better example would be, would you like to see this, or would you like to see that, especially if they haven't if they weren't able to accomplish the task. So for example, if we gave them a drop down to search for some to get to some option, and they weren't able to do it, we would try not to say something like, oh, would you prefer to have radio buttons here? Or we wouldn't say something like, oh, would you like this to be drag and drop? Because when you suggest features to them, usually they will take it as the way it should be, and they will get stuck on it, and they will say something like, oh yeah, drag and drop is exactly what I need. And then if they have any other thoughts, they will pretty much ignore them because they will think that this is the right answer. So I hope this makes sense, but let's go for it to elaborate.
Yeah, I think like again, overview on that is definitely no leading questions or leading questions for sure. And then even kind of going back into like the initial slides, you should definitely stress like you want these people to be talking through the stuff. So a lot of times, hopefully you won't even need to ask the question. You'll get what they're thinking by really forcing people to talk out what they're doing while they're doing it. So like our best usability session people will be like, oh, I don't see the save button, so I'm going to exit out here, and now I'm going to go there. And some people aren't as great with it. So like, it's definitely off the bat being very open and like even very clear, like, I want you to be talking throughout the whole thing, and reminding them. And sometimes that will lead to not having to really even ask the questions. But if you do, like Masha gave some good examples as well. I guess I kind of wrote back in that thing too. Like if you're talking about the pre-questions too, those should just be direct. Like, you know, how many years have you been using the product? How long have you been using X, Y, and Z feature? What's your major use case in the feature? That will kind of, again, get you to understand how much of a heavy user this is. Especially in our position, Masha and I were kind of given names, but we didn't know too much about what they were doing in the system. We obviously aren't analysts or anything like that, so not sure, like, again, what they're doing inside the system per day. So sometimes it's good to get that information too.
Mm-hmm. I guess as one of the examples, we have at our company a product feedback form, and sometimes we would get several customers talking about something similar that they would want to see in the app, and we work with product to get the names and emails of those customers, and then if that feature gets prioritized, we would start by contacting them. And then also, I think as with case with many companies, they have a subset of like champion users that are submitting lots of tickets, always using like feedback form, who have been with us for a long time, who maybe even speak at the conference that we host. So they're definitely more, they wouldn't be surprised to get an email of that sort. Mm-hmm. And then of course there are some like not marketing tools, but like analytics tools that you might have your company already use, which would have like emails of the customers, and you can try cold calling them, and we've had some success with that as well. Yeah, definitely helps to work with the other teams.
Yeah, we had an analyst team, and that was kind of our initial subset of people, was just handed down from our analyst team, being like, yeah, these guys are all stars, or, you know, they always love giving feedback in our calls. So I think they're someone you would want to reach out to too.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Any other questions? I'll do that now. Just go through that.
I was just saying hi back to everyone. So
yeah, thank you for doing that. Okay. So yeah, if there are no questions, we'll send out an email with the link in case someone else wants it. And then also for our next meetup, we're planning on doing a very beginner version for starting to work with plugins, in case some of you are interested. So this would be more aimed for designers who don't have any programmer experience to get started with creating something using Figma API. And so yeah, that's the plan for our next meetup. So stay tuned for that. Okay. One more awkward silence for.
Well, I can fill in the silence too. Like, yeah, also, like, that was our idea. We'll definitely be able to, definitely looking for other suggestions from people. So use like Slack or use the meetup channel. And like, and by any means possible, you guys can contact us, and let us know your thoughts in terms of what we should do in the future. Maybe not even the next meetup, but the one after that. So.
Okay. Well, thank you all. Enjoy the rest of your day or your evening.
Bye.